Right, so by hand, if we're looking for the zero of this, we're looking for the x-intercept, the solution. So remember that this is the same thing as y. You can put 0 in for y. And then solve for x. So we would subtract 4 to both sides. And then you could either divide both sides by -2/3 or take this number, flip it, and multiply on both sides. That would be 12/2 or 6. But if you would put this into Desmos or your calculator and just put this part into the calculator, you should have seen this. So I'm just going to type in y equals -2/3 x plus 4. Is that the last? I can look and see 6 is my x-intercept. So use Desmos while you're practicing these things. Okay, questions on number 1. Number 2 has a graph already. We're looking for the solution. Solution is the same as a 0 or an x-intercept. So we just have to look at where is your x-intercept, and that would be x. So the solution to number 2 is x equals 2 or the ordered pair 2, 0. Questions on number 2? So flip it over to the back. And then I said 1, 3, and 4. So for number 1, I'm going to just put these all into Desmos at the same time. Look at this. So here we're looking for which of these go through this. So you know this black line right here does not, so I can. It looks like this blue line does not, so I can also get rid of that. That means everything else has an x-intercept, and you could circle all of those. So 2x minus 6, x squared minus 9, -3x squared plus 10x minus 3. Number 3, I'll do by hand, and then I'll show in Desmos. For number 3, if we were writing the x and y intercept, well, 1, we have the y intercept, so we can write that. 0, -4, without doing any work. But the x-intercept, we do the same work that we did before. The y equals 3x minus 4, change the y to 0. And now we're solving. Add 4 to both sides. And divide both sides by 3. Since this is a fraction, you would just leave it like that and write 4/3 0. Questions on those? Number 4 just asks you to circle the y-intercept of the function. That would be right. Oh, I also have to put that back in decimal so you can see that. So I'm gonna put 3 in decimals and then we'll move on. On this, I can see 1.3 repeating. If I put in the 4/3 that we got, I can see that that's also 1.3 repeating. And then I can also see that my y-intercept is at -1. All right. So in a second, I'm going to separate those that need to finish the test and those that finish the test. To look over your test to see if you want to retake or not for those that finish. Everyone that didn't finish is working on it, / you could review before you start your test. If you choose to not retake, almost all of you are missing at least 1 Delta Math, if not more. So you need to be doing Delta Math. And then once you have finished all Delta Math / if you already finished, I need to get out some additional practice and you can choose one of those and then time is yours. Okay. Questions on what we're doing today? 2 seconds.
All that.